right. Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening, pretty much. It's pretty late. It's already 6:45 here where I am in the PM, post-meridian time. And we are approaching the eve of Shavuos, what's often called by a name that originates in the Greek, the holiday of Pentecost is how it's known, particularly among Christians, although I'm sure that's how Jews who spoke Greek referred to it, however it would have been pronounced in ancient times. And literally, Shavuos means weeks, so the Feast of Weeks, meaning it's a week of weeks. Today last night we counted 48 days of the Omer, so tonight will be one more than that. And then we're done with the counting of the Omer. The 50th day is Shavuos. The power of this day, according to the rabbinical tradition, who did some math and came to the conclusion that this was when we received the Torah at Sinai. And so therefore in our liturgy we call this time Zman Matan Torasenu, the season of the gift of our Torah. We often reflect at this time, I often reflect at this time, but really every day we should reflect upon this. The powerful apologetic argument that Judaism offers. But with that being said, we'll review that a bit, but then I want to take it in a little bit of a different direction. With that slightly different direction, I might upset some people. I'll probably upset everybody, the fundamentalists on all sides, and that's okay. Because we're supposed to get out of our comfort zone a little bit. But also we're supposed to kind of get into our comfort zone as well and find a good balance. The classical argument of Judaism, the classical apologetic of Judaism, the classical defense of our faith, as expressed by Maimonides and as expressed by Rabbi Judah Halevi, Levite, and the Kuzari, is an incredible one. For me as an Orthodox Jew, it's enough. I don't need any other religion than this one. Because it's clear that this is the truth, and it's the simple truth. The unique event of Sinai, that an entire nation heard the voice of God and subsequently lived, is completely unique in the annals of all of world religion. No other religion makes such a claim as their founding doctrine and event, whereas other religions might be based upon this truth and this historical fact of what happened at Sinai. There's some point where they break off of the roots of Judaism. Perhaps they form a new tree, and we're going to get to why I think that's okay. However, not in a fundamentalist way, but in a pragmatic way. But the simple fact, if you never heard it, is that simply Judaism has a unique claim of national revelation that no other religion claims. 600,000 men between the ages of 20 and 80. Or I forget if it's 20 and 80 or 20 and 60. In any event, I think it's 20 and 80. In any event, there were a lot of people who were older. There were a lot of people who were younger. There were a lot of women. The Levites are not counted in that 600,000. So, millions of people, at least 1 million people, we could be sure, but possibly 2, 3, 4 million, maybe more, all surrounding this hill, Har Sinai, Mount Sinai. And all experiencing something, experiencing prophecy. And that's that. This is how we know that this is true, because you couldn't get away with making up the story. The way I generally will tell it is, can you imagine if two different scenarios, one person, he's alone in the woods and a flying saucer comes down and has a message for this person, and he comes and teaches this message that he heard from the alien, and the truth is, you could take it or leave it. You could hear what he said, and if what he said is consistent with what's good and proper, we could probably accept it. And if it severely contradicts that which is good and proper, we should probably dismiss the whole thing, not necessarily meaning that it's not true, that it didn't happen or did happen or didn't happen. And if it's somewhat consistent and somewhat inconsistent, I would say you could take the good and discard the bad, and that's kind of the point of what I'm going to bring up after this. So then we move on from this, and then we'll say, did you hear that in the middle of the Super Bowl, I don't know what kind of Super Bowl they're going to have this year, but I'm talking about last year, 20 years ago, in the middle of the Super Bowl. The flying saucer came down and had a message. Well, of course, if it did happen, you would have heard about it. And if it didn't happen, you could not get away with fooling people into believing such a thing. And then it's even further. If I tell you, and you were sitting next to me watching the Super Bowl, or in the seats in the stadium, and you saw it. Well, that's, again, if it happened, it happened, and if it didn't, it didn't, and that's it. There's no way to fool anybody into believing such a thing. And then if you go even further, and the part of that message is that this is the first and last time that something like this will ever happen, and I want you to study all the history of all the world, and all the world religions and everything, and find if anything like this ever happened. That's perhaps even more amazing, because that proves whoever's making such a statement, essentially the omnipotence of such a claimant. And so from here we, I would say, can ascertain that the Torah that was given at Sinai is true. And there is no way to falsify such an event, and merely by the fact that people have believed this for, we can be sure, over 2,000 years. We have the Dead Sea Scrolls that we know are that old, historically, scientifically. They've been verified to such an age. And so we know that for a long time, people have accepted this, have seen fit to write this down. It's not something that was denied. And here we are. Totally unique event in world history. Impossible to falsify or to forge. Let's go a little further. So that's basically it. And for this reason, I'm an Orthodox Jew. I believe that my religion is the true religion. And for other reasons as well. It's not the only reason. Not the least of which are emotional and spiritual reasons that cannot be quantified in this matter. Good. Now what? Fact of the matter is, there are a lot of other people in the world who believe other things. Most of the people in the world will accept that there is some truth to this. Meaning most of the people in the world are either Christian or Muslim. One of those two religions make up the majority, or at least a large plurality of people in the world. About 2 billion Christians and about 1 billion Muslims. So I guess now we're up to, some people are saying 8 billion people, 9 billion people, so I guess it's no longer a majority between those two. But a large plurality of people accept that, and yet they say something changed. At least that's how most people would interpret what they say. The Muslims would say that we changed the text of the Torah. The Christians would say it would seem that at some point God changed his mind. That's how I guess most Christians would see it, maybe not all. And then that's what we have. And then of course there's 1 billion atheists in China. Not all the Chinese are atheists, but combine the Chinese atheists with the rest of the atheists around the world, probably about 1 billion atheists in the world. And then, in other countries, a very small amount. And there are people who are just nothing and don't even think about these things, don't care about these things, or people who do care but are uncomfortable with organized religion. And then there are other religions. There are Sikhs. Sikhs accept, to a certain extent, even though they reject the practices of Islam, they accept, to a certain extent, the beliefs of Islam, and would essentially accept that this event, they would not deny that God spoke to Moses at Sinai. Just they believe that it's not wise to follow the rules that were given there, and that men of wisdom can connect to God in a different way. And then eventually that just became a religion when it wasn't meant to be. And so now they're growing beards and wearing turbans and someone who doesn't grow a beard and doesn't wear a turban says, "Oh, I'm Sikh but not religious," when they're probably really more like how the Guru Nanak was. That's their business, not my business. I'm not a Sikh. They can be Sikhs. No problem. I have no problem with anybody. Then let's go further. Some of the other religions. The Buddhists don't really care what you believe. It's not a matter of theology. It's more of a matter of philosophy that, again, like Sikhism did much later in history, developed into religious practices over time, or reverted perhaps. And then you have the Hindus who believe in many gods. But again, they would not deny in their pantheon that some God spoke to the Israelites at Sinai. We would, of course, deny their gods, and so it's not consistent with our faith, but there's nothing that we say here that contradicts them. It contradicts it. What they say contradicts us, but we say doesn't really contradict them per se, as far as the event that we're claiming. Which you're going to say, but wait, they believe in many gods. How could that be? Hold on. And then you have some of these other religions that are New Age religions, that are neo-pagan religions, trying to reconstruct things that were a long time ago. And so you have the Wiccans, and you have the Odinists, and you have some of these others who again would probably not deny our claims, just say they have a different culture, they have a different ancestry, and they are going to be embracing their traditions instead of those of our desert god, is the way they would express it. Again, we say that our God is not a desert God, but our God is the one true God who fills all worlds and surrounds all worlds. And their gods, by their own admission, are pretty much just like us. I wouldn't deny the existence of such beings that live in another dimension that might have even some kinship to mankind. There's actually such a concept in Judaism that such beings exist, and that even perhaps some angelic beings have kinship with us on some level. So that's what we have there. Native Americans, similar type of thing. Many of them have become Christians, but still kept their native traditions, practices. But by embracing Christianity, or even if they don't fully embrace Christianity, a lot of Native Americans have respect for Christianity, and similarly have respect for Judaism, and would never say that what we experienced didn't happen. Just they'll maybe understand it in a different way, but they would not deny the historical truth of this. Now, how can we, as someone who have fundamental ideas in our faith, balance the fact and be pragmatic with the fact that we live in a pluralistic society that has these different beliefs? How do we live with this? And this question is something we will approach in the next video, because I've already gone on for about 20 minutes and I actually have to take a break But pretty much what we've established here is that this is real. This is the real deal. God spoke to Moses at Sinai, not only to Moses, but to millions of people at Sinai. We pretty much know that that's the truth. And that's what we're going to be celebrating tomorrow night and the following day, but also in a sense reliving. We'll talk more in the next video. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. We'll see you later. How do you turn this off?